What's up, everybody? This is Alex with WMD back again. Today we're going to check out the SYNCHRODYNE module. So the SYNCHRODYNE is one of our older modules. You might say it's a classic. You might say it's a flagship. You might say it's a favorite. You might say it's mysterious, mystic. It has a little bit of mystique. You might say that it is intimidating because there are some controls on here that you don't know exactly what they do and why they're there. And that's what we're here to do today. We're going to demystify the SYNCHRODYNE. The SYNCHRODYNE also has an expander module called the SYNCHRODYNE Expand. Imagine that. But that thing is a total beast in itself. So today we're just going to stick with the SYNCHRODYNE. Down the road, I'll do an in-depth of the SYNCHRODYNE with the expander. But the SYNCHRODYNE is so much fun in just itself that we're just going to check it out directly. So without further ado, let's just dive in. So the basics of the SYNCHRODYNE is that it's a filter. It's a switched capacitor filter, which means it uses capacitors for the filter sound instead of resistors. So we're sending electronic charges very quickly in and out of these capacitors, which is creating our resistance. So we're using these switches and we're using a high-speed clock in order to do that. This means that we're actually using an oscillator to control the frequency cutoff over the filter instead of just normal voltage control. So in this case, we've got three sections. We've got the filter section here, normal resonance control, a couple other controls, low pass, band pass, high pass. This is a ratio switch, so 100 to 1 or 50 to 1. This is just how much the filter is reacting to the clock, which gives you a different character. And then we've got a wave folder here, which is an input wave folder. So it actually takes your signal directly after the internal VCA and gives it a bit of wave folding on the input. We've also got this VCO section. So this is actually our high-speed clock for controlling the filter. And this VCO runs into this PLL circuit. So a PLL is a phase-locked loop circuit, which is basically another oscillator, but its phase is being locked to this VCO here. So it's tracking this VCO's frequency. We've got a couple different controls here. We've got two sets of multiply here, which are inside of the loop, and then we've got this divide at the end, and these are basically just taking our VCO and multiplying the clock to a very high speed, so that way we can actually hear the VCO as well as have it control our filter. And then the divider's on the end, and this just kind of lets you tame it in a little bit more. I'll show you more what I mean. This part's pretty difficult to explain. It's a lot easier just to show you what it sounds like and show you how to use it. So what we're going to do is we're going to take a spectrum oscillator here, and we're going to run it directly into the filter. So I'll just show you the dry sound. So it's just a saw wave. And we're going to go directly into the input here, and then we're going to use the low pass mode, and we're going to go out of the 4-pole output here. So you can barely hear anything because our VCO is at such a low frequency. And I'll just turn it up a little bit. So that's the character of the filter. We'll turn the resonance up a little bit more. And then we'll check out the other side. So this is a band pass. And then this is the high pass. So as you can see, I'm using this VCO here to control the clock speed of our filter. I'm not really using the PLL circuit at all, except for the tracking speed and the damping. So tracking is just basically saying how fast can it react. So you can hear it kind of quacking a little bit when I turn it up quick. If I turn the tracking speed back up, it's almost like dead on with my knob turn. And then damping helps out with overshooting and undershooting the frequency. So the PLL circuit in nature kind of undershoots and overshoots the frequency that it's trying to match. And so damping just kind of helps rein that in a little bit. So now we're going to listen to the different kinds of outputs. So we've got the 4-pole here. And then here's a 2-pole sound. It's a little bit more mellow. We can turn the resonance all the way up and it's still not going to self-oscillate on us. So it just sounds a little bit more mellow there. And so this is the 2-pole with wave folding on the output. Gives you a little bit more distortion sounds. And then here's the 4-pole with wave folding on the output. That's definitely our most gnarly, raunchy spot of the filter. And we can turn a wave folder onto the input. So this is actually wave folding in two spots, the input and the output. Sometimes this will just turn to straight noise, so that's pretty fun. If we go back to the 4-pole output, we'll turn the wave folder off and back on, so you can just kind of hear the difference here. So that's an input wave folder. That's just right after the input VCA. And then here's the 100 to 1 switch. So basically, we can just hear the different characters that it has over the filter. 100 to 1 definitely closes the filter more, just making a little bit more rounder, kind of deeper sound. And that's a really fun control to play with while you're actually performing. All right, so we could have stopped there, right? We could have just stopped with this filter and said, okay, here's your VCO, clock the filter with it, use the PLL to slow it down. The reason why we actually put this PLL in the first place was because we wanted to be able to use this VCO as our sound source. So instead of having to run an external source from our Spectrum here, which I'm doing now, we wanted to just be able to use the internal VCO. So if I take our Spectrum oscillator out here and we listen to, let's just listen to the saw wave, right? Man, that's so high pitched. That's what we were using to control the filter. So if I bring that down to like a reasonable level, it's a little bit more easy to listen to. We're just listening to the saw wave out of the oscillator just straight out. There's also a pulse wave. So you can get these two oscillators and you can just use those independently if you like. One more thing, what I'll do real quick is we'll use the Spectrum oscillator one more time. And we're just going to run a sequence from our voltage block into the volt per octave of our onboard VCO. So now you can hear the filter tracking to this VCO. So we're still listening to the input. The input signal is the Spectrum oscillator, which is running into our filter here. And then our VCO is tracking to our voltage block, which is actually controlling the frequency of the filter. So we can turn down the tracking speed, get more of like a kind of loose feel for it, a little bit more resonance. Check out the wave folded one again. So now you just have direct control over the filter with the coarse knob of the VCO. Go into low pass mode. Turn the tracking speed back up. And this is pretty fun as it is, right? We throw a kick drum on there. Maybe some hi-hats. And we're already ready to go, you know, like this is super fun. All right, so to continue, instead of taking the input from our Spectrum, we're going to take the input from our internal VCO, which is actually normaled to the filter. So the saw wave output here is just normaled into the input of our filter already. So we'll just take a listen to the output of the saw wave. And yeah, man, so high pitch. Let's take that down to a working frequency. And now we'll listen to the 4-pole output. All right, so I was on high pass there. That's why we're still hearing it. I'm going to take to low pass. Now you can't hear anything coming through, right? That's because the VCO's frequency is so low that it's not actually opening up our filter at all. So what we're going to do is we're going to take these multiply knobs and turn it up till we can hear it. Here we go. We can kind of rein it in with the divide, hear that. See, all of these have different styles of multiplication and divisions, so they all have their own character to them. Rather than just giving you one, we gave all three, so that way you can really dial in different sounds with these different knobs. So now I'm going to run the same sequence into our volt per octave signal of our VCO. You can hear that the filter is actually tracking to this VCO just rather slowly. So we'll turn the VCO up, or the tracking speed up a little bit. And then we'll multiply it a little bit more, take this divide off. You can hear that filter really tracking. And then there's where our damping comes in, right? Because it's overshooting and undershooting. So it's trying to track too fast. So we'll rein it in with that damping a little bit. Or we'll take the tracking speed out and just make it sound a little bit more wild. Now check this out with the wave-folded output. And then whenever we want, I mean, we can just be performing with something like this, right? And then we'll just switch to high pass and we take the kick drum out. And then switch back to low pass. So one crazy thing about this voice that we're using right now is that we don't have any envelopes. We're just literally running a sequence into a VCO, a volt per octave sequence, and just listening to the output, and we're getting all that crazy timbre. So here we have an input VCA, and we can just basically use that to turn up or turn down the signal that's going into the input, right? So now we're going to take this envelope and we're going to run it directly into this VCA here. So we're just going to take this envelope out. It's running at 16th notes, and we're going to put it into the VCA input here, VCA CV input. Turn down the envelope signal. Get a little bit more rhythmic with it. And then this knob just becomes an attenuator over your CV. Listen to that wave-folded output again. So the SYNCHRODYNE is just such a really fun module to be playing with, and it's got a lot of real-time performance controls. Go back to this normal input here. And then here's that 100 to 1 or 50 to 1, the ratio switch I was talking about. So you can hear up here, a little bit more high frequencies letting through. And then here we're just rounding off those frequencies. So another cool thing about this module is that it's got this influence input, right? So now we can just say where we want a starting point, and then we can run voltage into this influence input. So I'm just going to take an output of my static voltage block here while it's sitting here. And we can say how much is the filter going to respond to our clock here. So if I run my sequence again, I can kind of open and close the filter with this input here. Another fun thing to do here is to run the same envelope that we were using for our VCA. We'll just run straight into the influence input as well. So I'll take that envelope, plug it into here. And now I've kind of got a cutoff frequency control on this envelope, or on this influence input here. Listen to different outputs again. All right, so now we're going to take out our VCA control and our influence control. And then we're just going to listen to the filter. So I'm going to turn the resonance all the way up, and then we're going to take the VCA and turn the input signal down. So this is just the sound of the filter's resonance. So this is self-oscillating. It only self-oscillates in 4-poled and the 4-pole wavefold mode. But that's a pretty cool sound, right? And then you just bring your input back in. And then, man, I just love putting this input VCA here. A little bit of rhythmic attitude in there. So another thing we can do with this guy is we can actually listen to the phase lock loop circuit. So here's what the PLL sounds like. Right now it's probably so high frequency that we just can't hear it. So I'll turn it back into an audible range here. And so yet again, here's our saw wave. And then here's what the PLL is actually doing, trying to track. So this is the signal that's actually controlling our filter here. Pretty crazy sound in itself, right? Then we've also got this phase delta output here. And this is listening to the loop part of the circuit. So I'm not really sure how to explain this perfectly on how well it's doing, but it's just another output that gives you more control and another place to listen to your output here. But that's another place you can run that into your input. You can run the PLL straight in the input. That might do something. So now we're going to take the phase delta output. And here's what the phase delta sounds like again. We're actually going to filter that. So we'll just take that output, run it directly into the input here. That gives us just a little bit better, a little bit different character as well. Try and wavefold it. Listen to the wavefolded output. So that's just another way to get sound out of there. So now we're going to take the pulse wave, run it into the filter. So normally our saw wave is running into it, but now we're just going to take the pulse wave and run into it. Just kind of a cool thing, and then we can just turn it into noise by wavefolding it and just kind of destroying the whole thing, you know. So square waves don't do the best with wavefolders. And then now let's check out that, bring our envelope back here. And then we'll take the same envelope, we'll run it into the influence input. Why don't we throw a little bit of delay on here for good measure? All right, so we've ran an oscillator through it. We've used the internal oscillator. What else can we do with this thing? I don't know. Let's run some drums through it. I'm going to take our fracture, which is this clap sound, and I'm going to run it directly into the Synchrodyne and see what we can get, see what kind of sound that gives us. So grab another cable here. I'm going to go directly out of my fracture here. and into our Synchrodyne's input. Ooh, we're just getting a bunch of resonance. Let's open her up a bit. There it is. Let's press play on our drum beat here and turn the delay back off and get this clap going. And we'll give it a little bit more than just a 2 on the floor, 4 on the floor. And now, check this out. We've got our sequence from our voltage block is in charge of filtering our clap. Oh, wave folded, just turned it into crazy noise. We're still listening to this wave folded output here. So now we'll just listen to the regular 4-pole output. Turn the wave folder off completely. All right, so real quick, instead of the fracture, now let's just take an auxiliary send out of our mixer. So I'm gonna make a beat real quick. Turn this one on, turn our other clap on here. Some nice, good sounds here. And there we go. There's our other clap. Now we're just gonna go pre-fader on all these sounds. Go out of aux 2 here. We'll turn all of our sounds down and we're just gonna listen to the output of the Synchrodyne. So we'll go out of this aux output here, and then we'll mess around with just sending a bunch of stuff. So we've got the kick drum going in there. Open it up a little bit. And now let's listen to what it sounds like with all the dry sounds back in. So all this sound is just coming from running our drums just straight into the Synchrodyne. I'm gonna run another bass line in it real quick, see what this kind of sounds like. We're gonna run this into the Synchrodyne as well. We'll take all of our sounds down, get our pre-fader listen on again. So this is just the sound of the Synchrodyne again with all of our drums and our bass line running into it. Ooh, that input wave folder, output wave folder. Oh, listen to this with everything. Man, you guys hearing that? That is just like, that's just stuff, that's just running stuff in the Synchrodyne and just seeing what comes out, you know? High pass. That's our band pass. Take the kick drum out of the Synchrodyne signal. Kind of cleans it up a little bit. And then one more time, we'll just listen to the Synchrodyne. So this is just the Synchrodyne with drums running through it, a whole mix running through it. I mean, man. So as you can tell, it's a super versatile module. It's a super fun module to use. So yeah, thanks for watching. I hope that this helped you out a little bit. Hope this gave you a little bit more insight into the Synchrodyne and the capacity and the capabilities of this module. I mean, obviously it's super versatile, and I mean, I'm having so much fun I could just play all night, so I gotta stop it here. Thanks again for watching. Make sure to like and subscribe to our YouTube channel. And if you have anything that you want to see, any techniques or any modules that you want to see us demo, shoot us an email and hit us up via the comments. Thanks. Have a good one.